Good afternoon, evening, good day from wherever you might be from. We have Monday's price action essentially printed at this point and a little bit of a development. Well, firstly, we finally reached the buy-side liquidity that we've been outlining for the past 10 weeks or so. And that also means that we have entered into the weekly sell side imbalance, the monthly sell side imbalance, which I find to be a big development, a big achievement, and a big target that was reached. If you watched my previous video, you would notice that I also pointed out this swing high. I was tempted to say this one to be the next closest target, but even though it is a swing high on a lower time frame, I prefer sticking with the weekly chart and looking at this swing high instead, because I would ideally like to see us clear a swing high, tap into an imbalance before seeing any sort of reaction to the downside or even to the upside to be used as support. So going back down to the daily chart, on the previous video I outlined that I would have preferred for us to tap into this discount array, this buy side imbalance, and I was essentially hoping that we got there on Tuesday. I know this daily candle hasn't closed yet, and I know it has 2 hours and 26 minutes to close, but if I had the choice, if I had a say in this market, I would prefer that it doesn't close above this buy side liquidity. I prefer a closure below it, so we may be able to still get a tap into this BC or into this volume imbalance, which was a new day opening gap, actually a new week opening gap, to see higher prices. If they are not willing to give us this discount array and they are essentially saying that we have printed the low of the week, even though it's a Monday today, of course we can see over there this is Friday, it's Friday's price action, and Monday we dipped down into discount from midnight, the yellow line being the midnight price, dipped down into discount, rallied up, dipped down one more time, and didn't look back from there. So going forward, tomorrow I will be attempting to try this 1 hour buy side imbalance. I'll be paying attention to see how we trade when we get there. We may see a rejection from this level and aim for higher prices. Of course, I'm still looking for the buy side imbalance that I outlined all the way over there at 107.993, but the low hanging fruit would be the high that was created from today. Of course, this is what I'm looking for. If they don't give us this, if they show willingness to continue rallying lower than this buy side imbalance on the 1 hour, which is also there on the 4 hour, but if they don't show willingness to respect it and continue lower, then I would look to see if we can sustain, if we can hold our original plan from bouncing off from these levels, from the 105.250 and higher. But this is what I'm looking for going into Tuesday. Looking at EURUSD, of course we have the exact opposite of that. These arrows are from the previous video that I uploaded to the channel. I was looking to see if we could purge the buy side liquidity first. I would have preferred that when we swept Asia low at this point. I was expecting and hoping that we took buy side liquidity from Thursday's high before continuing to the lower section. But now that we have already purged sell side, it also makes sense why I would be looking to see if we can trade back into this sell side imbalance the same way that I was looking at the dollar, and then trade lower from here. So I will be setting an alert at this point. This to me is not a high probability trade because we didn't sweep buy side liquidity first. Yes, we got a market structure shift at this swing low and even this swing low, but we didn't purge buy side first, which was why I was expecting and hoping that we swept buy side liquidity first before creating this market structure shift to the downside. If we had done this, then this entry would be an A minus or an A plus depending on the higher time frame. Of course, on a higher time frame, we still have this sell side liquidity residing at 1.05162, which is visible on the daily, but it's essentially those lows residing over there. So going back to the 1 hour, this is what I'm looking for going into Tuesday. But as I said already, I would have preferred to see buy side liquidity purged first, and I'm still open to that opportunity, to that possibility, because we can open on Tuesday, probably reject from here temporarily, but we can also continue to the upside to clear buy side before continuing later on to the downside. On pound, I specifically mentioned that I was looking at this daily buy side imbalance. Going to the daily chart, we can see the buy side imbalance from this candlestick's low to this candlestick's high. I wanted to see if we could trade into it before seeing lower prices, but of course in the same fashion we did not even bother trading that far down. But we do have a consolidating pound, we do have somewhat of a stronger pound as compared to the euro, because looking at the 1 hour, we had a stronger retracement, a stronger pullback into the range as compared to the euro. So if you're looking for buying opportunities, I would rather take this than euro. And then if I'm looking for selling opportunities, I'll take euro. But overall, I would still prefer taking the pound, because as we've already outlined earlier, we have this tailless sell side liquidity, this tailless candle, and overall it's the only one that just created a market structure shift and still have sell side liquidity to be tagged below. Of course, I've already pointed out all these things on my previous video, so I just wanted to point out today's price action. So the daily candle will still have the possibility of trading here on a Tuesday to create the high of the week, then falling off on the pound, because we have not swept this sell side liquidity yet. We got close to it, but we didn't sweep it yet, so we still have the chance of trading higher than falling off, creating the high of the week, especially considering that pound is the stronger of the two sisters. If it doesn't do that, then I'll be paying attention to how the euro treats that sell side imbalance, and a possibility that when we are trading in here, pound might have traded into a lower time frame PDRA to also be rejecting to the downside. One other thing I wanted to cover was gold. Is gold on a daily chart? If you all remember from a couple videos ago, I was looking to sell gold from this level, and I did sell gold, and because of the extreme manipulation on a lower time frame, I had to move my stop loss from here to here, and eventually got stopped out before we saw the fall off from there. So I'm paying attention to that. I'm still following that same idea, with the difference being that we have traded below the consequent encroachment, which is the 1917.8. We've traded below it, and I know we still have about 17 minutes for this daily candlestick to close, and of course straight into the Asia session. I am paying attention to this order block. I'm paying attention to this order block as we open during the Asia session, and I would like to see us reject from it, trading lower from there as an intra-session trade. Nothing to hold for the whole day, but specifically for Asia session and London session. Going down to the 1 hour chart, we can clearly see that this order block is also, after sweeping this high, tapping into this sell side imbalance. Let's readjust this line. It's after sweeping this high on a 1 hour chart, tapping into this imbalance, and then aiming for this sell side liquidity, which is the low from Thursday of last week. My invalidation point, of course, in this case would be the third candle that created the fair value gap, which is this point over there. So that would mean we would have a negative risk reward. We would be risking $1. Well, we would be risking $1 for a possible gain of 73 cents. So it's a negative RNR, but I consider this to be an AB plus setup, because again we did not sweep buy side liquidity. We didn't sweep buy side liquidity at this point before displacing lower. I consider it to be a B plus because we are so close to an obvious target, in this case on a 1 hour chart, which is this sell side liquidity. So if we maintain this sell side liquidity, if we don't sweep this sell side liquidity and we trade higher, then this becomes a higher probability setup for me, a higher probability of us falling off and almost definitely going to tag this sell side liquidity potentially during the Asia session. So I'll be paying attention to these levels as we close off for the day. Let's round up with the indices. The Nasdaq, on a daily chart, we opened up today being Monday and immediately purged sell side liquidity. Of course, we didn't reach our targets yet, which are these equal lows and this imbalance sitting over there. But the fact that we opened up and rallied and fell immediately made me, I personally didn't like that, because I would have preferred us going higher, trading into this inefficiency before falling off, but we did it the other way around. Of course, I still have the same bias, the same view on this. The difference here is that we have already tagged into this buy side imbalance. I know it might not be visible, but we have tagged into it. Looking at the wick, actually going on a lower time frame, we can see that we've tagged into it. This area, this purple area, which is the buy side imbalance on a daily, we tagged into it, and I am not a big fan of that, because I would have preferred us tagging into it later on. And we can see how we rejected from the consequent encroachment of that daily fair value gap at that point. And now, of course, as the market closes, we are rejecting higher. I did take a trade with this setup using Daye's true opening and ICT's 2022 model, using the lunchtime as my dealing range, waiting for lunch low to be swept with the market structure shift on a 1 minute, retracement into this inversion fair value gap and aiming for launch high, and of course eventually today's high, which we pushed as well before the market closed. So my plan still remains the same on ES and Nasdaq. I still would like to see us trade into this sell side imbalance before falling off for the rest of the week, and potentially a bigger reversal into the range on Friday. For now, that's all I have. Good luck and good trading.